Hello, hello, it's Wednesday. I don't feel like I've been here in forever. So hello and welcome to Wednesday Live. We are talking homecoming today. Yes, I'm back in my happy place with all the little fussy bits. But before we get into that, make sure that you have your screen on your watching device. Could be your phone, could be your iPad. Turn it into the landscape or horizontal position. That way I'm bigger than life. And if you are not enjoying having the comments on the screen, swipe those off to the side. You can absolutely hear us. If you're at work and you're listening on earphones or something like that, thanks for joining us today. If I say or do something that merits a quick look, I'll be sure to call it out to you. And of course, you can catch us on the replay as well, because we have people that take care of those things, like making it magically appear as a replay. Today, Ricky is with us, of course. She's running all of that wonderful tech. And then we have teacher Annie with us in the studio. Leanne is sort of playing hooky today. She's working, but she's just not working here. Let's see, who am I missing? Oh my goodness, Susie and Caledonia. They'll be working with you and answering your questions. Susie on YouTube and Caledonia on Facebook. And of course, we'll have Dove chiming in as well from El Paso, Texas. So, homecoming. I did a deep dive on homecoming. And what I found as far as trends is a potpourri of trends. It is super regional, so I'm going to try and make this as inclusive as possible, and I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need you to chime in with what's going on in your world. I'll have some questions for you. I'm sure some of the discussion will bring questions up as well. But for starters, type your name in, tell me where you're from. If you're a tulip, put your tulip icon in there. If you're a first timer, if this is the first time you have joined us live, don't be shy. Even if it's your not first time being live with us, but you've never said anything, today's the day. Chime in and say, hi, this is Pam in Topeka. This is my first time chiming in. So please do that so that we can give you a big Tulip Bunch welcome. And yeah, I'm gonna get started. So while I do that, while I grab some materials, you guys get some choices, because the first thing I'm going to do is a wearable. It's all wearables all day today, in case you didn't figure that out with homecoming. But one of the trends I saw or heard about, because I have friends all over the country, and I tapped into my network of flower friends and said, what's happening, what's shaking, what's going down in your part of the world for homecoming? And it ran the range from nothing to, oh my gosh, it's a practice wedding. So we're gonna stay somewhere in the middle there, because nothing sounds terrible and we only have an hour. So my first thing I want to make is a wearable that's a cuff, a wrist cuff, a wrist corsage. But I'm going to give you some choices. So we're all pretty familiar, I'm sure, with the good old slap bracelet, right? Don't really want to go there. Very functional, might use it later, but we're not going to use it now. A lot of you have seen me make a noodled wire cuff before with the aluminum wire. You can buy a pre-made cuff as well. This is a really nice one, kind of a slightly brushed gold. Not going to use that. Or you've seen me make them from the flat wire. So I'm going to make the base for this, but I'm going to let you pick. Do you want me to noodle a cuff, and I will demo it, I won't use the one that I already have done, or do you want me to make the cuff out of flat wire? So say noodle or flat, and type those in. The first one that pops in, that's what we're gonna do. So while you're thinking about that, I'm gonna get some gorgeous ribbons ready. One of the cool trends that I found was that bold is back. Now, for quite a while, we've been seeing a lot of things where we don't have a lot of flowers at homecoming. the trend is coming back around. I like to think of it as a practice prom myself. But the cool thing there is bold is back. We've seen a lot of more subdued colors in some of the dresses around prom time, and we're starting to see more color coming in for homecoming, which means it will stick around for prom. But I'm getting ahead of myself on prom. We'll do that one closer to the spring. Anybody say anything about a color yet? What they prefer? Oh, not a color, sorry, about a flat wire or aluminum wire. Annie?
Looks like there's a lot of requests for noodle, but there's definitely a request for both.
What was the first one?
Probably noodle.
Noodle? Oh, that's easy. All right, so I'll save this one for another time. Or you can check back on an older live stream. It is very hot in Portland today, and it's continuing to get hotter. We are in a little bit of a heat, I'll call it not a heat wave, maybe a heat splash, because it's just going whoosh, and then drops back off again. So I have a pair of jeweler's pliers here. These happen to have a little cutter right here in the middle section. And what I want to do is tip over the edge of that aluminum wire because it's very sharp and we don't want to hurt anybody. And then, this is the hard part, right? I'm just going to take that wire and I'm just going to wrap it around my fingers. I'm really not doing it in any certain pattern. Trying not to catch my fingers. And you'll notice I'm just wearing the wire on my wrist. That keeps it from getting in the way, running away, dropping it. You can throw it in a little flower bucket too. It's just a little noisier. And I feel like I have a little bit more control of it this way. So see, I'm just noodling it. I'm just winding it around my fingers. If I want a little tighter coil in somewhere, I can just go in and coil that up a little bit. My fingers are a little cheeky and sweaty today, so I can't get a super tight coil going, or I may not get the wire back off my hands. Like that one. All right, so work that around, maybe just a little bit more, because more is always better. Give it a cut. And then I'll take another section, and I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to turn that little edge over and give myself kind of a needle. So it's curled on one end and not on the other at this point. Set that aside. And then I will take the cut end on that noodled section and curl it over. Maybe give it, I don't know, a couple extra curls in here just for some additional texture. While I'm working on this, what's going on, Annie?
We were wondering what gauge wire that aluminum wire is. Do you happen to know?
I do. This is Oasis brand aluminum wire, and it is 12 gauge aluminum. So it's very malleable, very easy to just bend and fold around like I'm doing here, and just kind of scrunching all that up. Really, that's probably the simplest thing you'll do all week right there. So I've made it, making it to fit my wrist, of course. So I've got a section about 6 inches long, and you can see it's got a lot of dimension to it. Now I'll take that little needle thing that I whipped out there, and I'm basically just stitching through all those loops. What that is going to do is give me some good support, some good structure, and it is random. I mean, this is random. My home ec teacher would be so proud seeing me do a running stitch like that.
Is that so it doesn't stretch out?
It is, exactly. Yep. Doing that little stitch through with the additional piece of wire keeps that mesh, if you will, that noodled wire from pulling apart. It just locks it all in place. And that little extra tail, I can kind of tuck him in there anywhere I want. Get it all about the same width this way. And now, the fun part, I'm going to stomp on it. Literally. I don't have my clogs on today, so it's not as good as if I had, but now it's nice and flat. So this gives me, I can tighten that up a little bit if I want. This gives me a wonderful base that I can put the rest of my materials on. So I'll just form that around my wrist. And voila, I have a cuff. That looks very similar to the one I already had. Ricky.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you do a tutorial on this in our Flower Lovers Club?
I did do a tutorial. Thank you for reminding me, Ricky. I'm getting old. I don't remember these things. That's why we have the young ones around. So yes, maybe Caledonia and Susie, if you get a second and you want to throw that up there, that would be great. It covers this technique in depth, and it also has a couple other little things that can be done as well. So now that I have my base, I'm going to add a little bit of fun to this with some different colored ribbons. So I'm going to be working with these lovely callas, kind of a two-tone. The light is a little fun on these, so I've been having fun with ribbon, and by fun I mean tricky. In fluorescent lighting, they were looking very orange with very red. In here, I'm getting more of a salmon color with a yellow orange. So I have an assortment of ribbons. It's going to be fine when it's done. Let's just go with that. But one of the things that I was seeing with these bold colors were more statement style corsages and things that really drew the eye, not just with their colors, but the size. They were big, and they also had flowers that had movement to them, not necessarily just that round blob that we're so used to seeing on a cuff or a wristlet or something like that, but either working with flowers that would cascade off the wrist, not really, really long. We saw those a few years back where it was almost like bat wings. They were so long. I might try that for prom though, because it is kind of fun. But this was more just creating line in the corsage, which is very difficult. And I personally find callas incredibly difficult to work with. So guess what? Here I am today doing a line corsage on a wrist with my least favorite flower to do so. But that's why you guys are here, is to see us do the hard stuff or the fun stuff or the stuffy stuff, whatever the stuff is. So I have a bunch of different ribbons up here. This one is kind of a peachy corally shimmer. Excuse me. And what I'm going to do is just feed it somewhere through this wrist armature that I've created, little wrist cuff, because it's going to help me secure my bow. Well, easier said than done. Secure my bow onto, there we go, the top of that. Excellent. And then I'm going to use an assortment of ribbons, some of this same, plus also some of this gorgeous hot pink, which is pulling a little bit of that pinky salmon color out of this ribbon. I don't know if that really shows on camera. Can you see a difference at all? Anybody notice the difference? Or does it look about the same? Pretty close?
They're just so shiny.
Shiny. Shiny's good. And then I'm trying to decide, I kind of want to be bold and do the black with it. What do you guys think? Little black? Mm-hmm. Black, or here's your other choice, or kind of this orange color. So the first one to type it in, black or orange, gets the pick, okay? So while we're seeing what they type in, who is with us today, or am I just up here talking to myself?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first color that came in was orange on YouTube.
Okay. How about on Facebook?
Facebook was black.
Okay.
So with us today, let's see if I can get everyone. There's quite a few people from all over the place.
Uh-huh.
Panama, Delaware, New Jersey, Australia, Michigan, Southern California, Tacoma, here in Oregon as well, North Carolina, Sweden, Seattle, Washington, Texas, Chicago, upstate New York, Ontario, Louisiana,
Wow.
and LA, Wisconsin. I'm not done. Let's see, I can't
But
read my
wait,
own
there's
writing.
more.
Bolivia, which is
Oh.
super cool.
Very excellent. Welcome.
Virginia, Massachusetts, and Georgia, and then something I couldn't read my own handwriting because I was writing too fast.
We were talking about that earlier. I have some notes I scribbled up here. Ricky reminded me that I type my notes too small, but it's because I have lots of thoughts. And then I get up here and I'm like, can't read it. And so I wrote them big, but not legibly. So there you have it. So we're all guilty of the messy note writing, I think. All right, so what I'm doing with this bow is I'm just layering some of these ribbons in here, and I may stop and change. I'm not really doing anything different as far as tying the bow per se, but I'm just adding different layers of that ribbon in so that I get more texture, more color, a little bolder look to things. And I know some of you said the orange, but I kind of wanted to do the black. No, I said I was going to do black, and I'm going to change my mind. Isn't that a woman's prerogative? Don't I get to change my mind? I'm pretty sure it's something like that. Yeah, the orange is fun. A little bit of citrus pop in there. This really isn't ribbon. It's almost like rickrack. It's not quite the same shape as rickrack, but it has that same very dense fabric feel to it versus the ribbon. And there's no law that says you only can use ribbon when you do something like this. Take a trip to the fabric store and check out the notions aisle. Check out where they have the trim and the ribbons and the fringe and the fun things, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to put a couple little loops in here. Not too much, because I don't want it to overwhelm. She says, with all of this. Give those some nice angled cuts. And then I'm going to go back with another little piece of that sheer shimmer ribbon and use that to tie my bow off. So I'll just slide it through my center loop. I'm a center loop gal. There are as many ways to tie a bow as there are to make tacos, I think. And that's fine. As long as you get a bow when you're done, that's really all that matters. So I'll use that to cinch up the center section. You could also use a covered wire, a taped wire. You could also use some of the aluminum wire if you wanted, if you could get it tight enough. I just never feel like I can really get in there and reef on it and get it nice and tight like I can with a little bit of ribbon. All right, so then I want to fluff out that bow a little bit, or crunch it up, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment, it seems like. Only one of the ribbons is wired, and that's probably just as well, since I'm mutilating the poor thing right now. And then you notice I've got some wonky loops going on here. That was on purpose, because I can come back in and just cut through that loop at a little bit of an angle, and it instantly gives me another streamer, like so. Kind of fun, huh? All right, then I have that, whoops, wobbly little cuff base that doesn't want to sit still. There we go, that works. And then using that little piece of ribbon that I tied on to begin with, I'm just going to set my bow in the center. Excuse me. And tie him off. Now, the cool thing is, these are things that you could have done way in advance of homecoming. Or at least when the orders were placed. You could take, am I pulling on the right bow? No, I'm not. Bad teacher, bad Michelle. Well, you ever just have one of those days where you want to yell cut? This is one of those days. I grabbed the wrong ribbon. All right, so we'll do that again, and I pulled my poor little bow right on out here. All right, we're gonna do take 2 on that. So, in case you missed it earlier, I took some of the sheer sparkly ribbon and I fed it through the center here to give me something to attach with. Now, if you do go back and look at that tutorial that I did that's in the Flower Lovers Club, no, it's not in the Flower Lovers Club. It's in the resources library, yes. You'll see that I had a different technique for affixing the flowers in the center. which works as well also, was a little different style of corsage that I had done in that. And that's why I used that particular centered disc technique. Okay, now we're back to where we were before I messed it up again. All right, stay. Ricky was having some computer non-cooperation issues when we were starting, and it's like, okay, things happen in threes. So we've had this. Now let's see what else we've got going on. All right, so now we're going to try that again with the correct ribbons. So I'm just feeding those two little tails of my ribbon that's on the cuff base through the center, like so, to affix it to my cuff. And then I'll do it just one more time so that it's a knot, and then I'll trim the rough ends there that I have on that ribbon. So while I fuss with this for a second, I have a question for you guys. Do you remember what the flowers were in your corsage for the first time you went to homecoming? Either yours or the person that you took or took you. I'm not going to be really particular because I know for some of us we have to think a little hard on that. But type in there, what were the flowers in your first homecoming corsage? Bonus points if you want to throw in what year that was. All right, so I ended up with a couple really long ones when I messed up that bow on the first row through. So it's really not a mess up. What I'm going to do is pop in here. It's a Bob Ross happy accident, right? So I'm going to go in there and just put a tiny little knot in that. Just adds a little more dimension to it, and it also weights those ribbon ends just a little bit, makes them a little less flyaway, and adds just another dimension, a little more texture, a little more interest. Even on little pieces like this, we want things to be interesting and unique. Maybe one on this side just to balance that out. All right, so next up, what I want to do, isn't that fun? Heck, I don't even know that we need flowers. That's just kind of cute without the flowers in it. So you'll notice that on the hot pink ribbon, I have the two tails on that same side. For me, that is going to make it the outside of the cuff so that it just looks finished like a bow. And if you find that you've got too much fluffy and too much ribbon on one side, like that one there, that is probably what helped tie the bow on, just feed him through your center loop, if you do a center loop, or just push him through to the other side so that you've got a little more on that outside edge, okay? So now I'm going to take, I have three mini callas, and you'll notice I have three different sizes. I've got a small, medium, and a large-ish, small, medium, and large-ish. And I'm going to kind of cheat the line on these, and by what I mean is I know I want them to kind of curve over the wrist at the front end. Conversely, you could have them curve up the wrist. Maybe let's do that. Let's have these curve up the wrist. So I know I want this one. These have been out of water for a little bit. I popped them back in to come on set, but it is toasty warm in here. So I want that one to curve up the arm just a little bit when it's being worn. So I'll give him just a little rub over my fingers so I get that nice curve. Then on my second largest one, I want it to do the same thing, just not as far up. So I'll come up in here and work my fingers over those stems, and notice how I get a nice little curve on that. Don't want to squeeze so hard that I crush the stem, but I want to do enough that I get it to kind of tuck up a little bit, okay? And then this one, I'm going to have him, her, it, they, come down the opposite direction just a little bit. So I get a little bit of balance. Too small, one large, it works. All right, so now that I have that set up, I'm going to take some of my Oasis Floral Adhesive and use that to secure those callas on here. Those are ribbon scissors, don't cut the flowers with those. So I'm going to start with the one that is closest to the corsage base itself, to the wrist. And I'm going to come in here and give it a nice little cut like so. And then my next one, kind of think about where I want him to hit and give him a nice little cut. And I'll keep those 2 stems. I might use those stems. I'm trying to decide. We'll see what happens. All right. So now I've got that corsage base, and I'm going to spin this around to me so I can kind of see. Nope, I can't design correctly that way. All right, so here is my nice little close-up one. So it's going to tuck into that corsage base with a little bit of glue. So I'll just find a little space in those loops of ribbon where I can easily adhere, easily being the operative word, my calla. So I'll put a little dab of glue, or in this case, a lot of dab of glue in there. And then I'm going to put some on the cut end of that calla, pretty generous amount, and let him sit for a second. And then I'll do the same with that smaller one. Whoa, the glue's even very, very warm. Annie's got your hand up, I can't see.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know we have a couple special viewers from Panama.
Oh, very
They
good.
say hello, and Ken Center says that you're the best.
Oh, thanks, Ken. Right back at ya.
Michael Smith is also here joining us.
Oh, very good. Well, you guys are, well, thanks for tuning in because you're doing something really spectacular. I'm just poking posies into ribbon right now. But Ken Center AIFD and Michael Smith AIFD are down at the Gateway to the Americas Cup in Panama, and Ken is a judge and Michael is competing. So congratulations, Michael. I know you guys are anxiously awaiting the announcement of the top 10 competitors. I keep checking my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed and everything, but now I'm in here. So I don't know when that's happening for you guys today, but very much looking forward to that. Super happy to have you joining us. And be sure to follow on the Tulip Bunch, if you haven't been already, Michael's designs that he's been working on. I know Leanne has been sharing. Okay, I'm rushing that. Man, normally the glue will set up pretty quickly, but it's a little toasty, so it's not really cooperating. That's fine. I'll let it do its thing. I'm going to hold on that one. I'm not committed to it yet. I think I want to, but I'm not going to cut him until I'm 100% sure. But I know I want to add a few more items into this. So as I look back here at my options.
Michelle, we
Yes.
have some requests for some close-ups.
Sure. Well, that's sitting there. Ricky, if you want to pop in and take a little close look. What I have here is some celosia. And I just love the texture. Just some little furry bits of this orange that we can tuck
Can you
in.
rotate that cuff so we can see the base more?
Rotate the cuff so we can see the base more. Like that.
Yeah, or maybe even just the back side of it. There we go.
So there's the base on the cuff. And then that would be the outside edge when it's on the wrist like that. Okay?
Perfect.
All right, so it's doing its drying thing at the moment, sort of. So I'll use a little bit of this celosia in the cuff to give a little more texture, just a little more interest. I don't want the leaves; they don't really hold up terribly well, but I love this contrast of the furry texture of the celosia to the smooth, kind of fleshy texture on the calla. That little bit of contrast is awesome. Stay. And then you all know how much I love working with that preserved reindeer moss. I like the color, and in this case it's very, very close to the color of those stems, which is nice. But it adds, again, just a little different texture to things, and it's also a great way to hide the glue. It gives a little more for those flowers to bite into. And I don't need a ton of it, at least I hope I don't. I hope I don't have that much gooby glue everywhere. So I'm just going to tear off a few little pieces of it. If you've never played with it or purchased it or seen it, it's reindeer moss or deerfoot moss that's been preserved and tinted, so it's very squishy. It's like a shower sponge almost. It's very fun. And I also have it in the white here. We might play with it a little bit later. All right, hopefully this is set up enough now that I can get it to poke in here. All right, so I need that first calla, or it's too dry and it won't go in. That'd be the way the day's going. All right, so I've got that first calla going up in there. Hold on to him for a second while I work on that second one. Remember, glue sticks to glue. So having glue on the stem and glue on the calla is really helpful. Okay, so I've got those guys in there. They're not 100% firm, but like I said, that glue is not, it's a little toasty for it to be setting up at this point, but that's okay. So we'll just leave it there for a minute. And I don't think I'm going to use this one. And I didn't cut him. I massaged him a little bit, but I didn't cut him. So I'm just going to pop him over here. And because I couldn't decide, I'm going to grab some fun little pins, some Lomi gems, if I can get them to come out. And they are in a hot pink that is just almost exactly the same color as that ribbon. Look at that. So what I want to do with these is I'm going to cut them off. I'm going to get rid of that pin and just cut off the pin portion and use the decorative end of it in a unique way. At least, hopefully you think it's unique. All right. So now I've got those in. I'm going to turn it around so I can see it because I want to see that line. So with that cuff sitting on my wrist, like that, I want those callas at a little bit of an angle. Now what I'm going to do is cheat the stems out this way. So the callas are going up the arm. We have the bow in there with that calla tucked deep, accenting the focal area. And then I'm going to have a couple little bits of stem coming out the bottom end. You know, sometimes you think about things in your head and you're like, yeah, that's going to look great. And then you think, yeah, I don't know. So this is going to file under, yeah, that's going to look great. So again, fair bit of glue. It'll take a second to set up. And you'll see me wiping that stem on my hand. When you cut a calla, it weeps a little bit. And all I'm doing is just tapping off that extra moisture on the cut end. That will help the glue set up a little bit better and be a little firmer while it's doing that. All right, so while that's setting up, what's going on out there? Do we have any questions? Or did anybody answer my question better yet?
Oh, yes. We had some questions about the first flowers. We had some jokers out there. Someone said dandelions.
That would be Rick.
Probably. And then we have mums, dipped carnations. Lots of people said roses and a lot of mums.
Very good. Yes, tips or dipped carnations. Now that takes me back. That was a little bit before my time, but I do remember seeing those. And, you know, that was a precursor to our tinted, dried, preserved kinds of flowers that we've been seeing a lot of in the last few years. All right, I'm going to rush these guys just a little bit because we'd like to do something else today. Maybe. All right.
I have a question about how long do callas last without a water source?
Yeah, so callas without a water source, they're actually a fabulous flower without a water source. They are very, very sturdy. They hold up very well to a lot of manhandling like you're going to get with this little fella today. So I've got that little short section of the stem and I'm going to tuck that up into my bow here. And again, he is a little on the wet side and he does not want to play well with others, but we're just going to force him in there. And then I'll take the other one, trim it off. Maybe just a little bit shorter. You can always make something shorter. Keep that in mind. You cannot make it longer. So just be aware of that as you are assembling something like this. All right, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to line up the head with that cut stem so it feels very connected. So it feels like I've tied the flowers into the center. I tried that. I wasn't happy with the security of it. And I also really didn't like the way it looked. It looked kind of funky and clunky with the bow in there. Now I just tucked a little bit of that preserved moss in there. That's helping carry my eye through, helps with my rhythm. And then I want to tuck a couple little bits of the celosia in there. And that is a lot of glue. So I'm going to share with a friend. When I was looking at the trends around the country and hearing from my flower friends, one of the other things that I saw a lot of was unique, whimsical designs for corsages and boutonnieres. This would kind of fall into that. And I've got one I want to show you some mechanics for, or some ideas of mechanics. I'm not going to make it because it requires spray glue, and Leanne's not keen on spray glue, nor is Ricky keen on spray glue in here where we have all the computer and video equipment. But I'm going to talk you through the idea, and then we will probably turn that into a Flower Lovers Club video for you. All right, just a little bit more mossy moss. So Annie, what was your first flower? Did you go to homecoming? Do you remember what your flowers were that you wore?
I was thinking about that, and I don't believe I had any flowers to wear for homecoming, but I do remember my first prom corsage. It was that, I don't know what it's called, that black ribbon with the tiny little loops on the edges. Black ribbon. Picoté.
Mm-hmm.
And with deep red spray roses.
Oh, very lovely.
Very elegant.
All right, so now I have those cut ends on the callas that are not attached to the callas themselves. I can do a couple things here. I could put just a little bit of clear nail polish on the ends, and that would seal them off. Normally we do that to help keep the moisture in, but in this case I would do it just to help keep it from shriveling and drying. But wait, that's so lame. So what I'm going to do instead is use those little pins that I clipped off. And you could do this with any kind of corsage pin. And I put a little Oasis adhesive on the end. And I just shove that right into the cut end on my calla. Just finishes it off, just gives it a little extra something. That's that little whimsical touch, right? That unusual, unexpected element of things. Then make sure that if glue oozes out around the edge, that you wipe that off, or wait till it dries and then you can pick it off as well.
Do you mind scooting that closer to our close-up camera?
I can do that.
It's funny you mentioned the clear nail polish because there's been comments about how your beautiful nails match your corsage.
Oh, well, kind of. They are reading kind of orange on camera, aren't they? So if we go into the close-up camera, there it would be from the side and more top view. And then I will put it on. It's not quite set. Glue hasn't quite cured, so it's a little on the fragile side. So being the bull in the china closet that I am, I will try not to make it come apart. And of course, Ricky will have photos of this for you guys tomorrow. Well, and I put it on backwards. Look at me go. You'd think the designer would know which direction it's supposed to go. And then get my sleeve out of the way. Okay. So then you'd have it like so. You guys like that? Is that fun?
Everyone's loving it. This looks great.
It's one of my faves. Callas, again, you know, they can be a little challenging to work with, but a little bit of glue, a little bit of moss, and you're good to go. All right, so I'm going to set this one aside, and like I said, Ricky will get some good photos, probably on Flora's arm tomorrow. All right, we'll just land that one back here. Get it out of the way. So I said that whimsical, unusual, creative boutonnieres and matching boutonnieres. So So I could do something with those same ribbons and the same calla, and I could just do a little boutonniere. That would be matching, but not really very interesting or clever. But what I have here is just some packing cardboard, right? I think it came with books or something. And I just whacked it in the paper cutter and came up with some interesting geometric shapes that kind of look like a lapel. What, you say? So what, to do something interesting and unusual shape-wise, you did lapel flowers. Not just a boutonniere, not just a pocket square. I know you guys have seen those. There's a great tutorial in the Flower Lovers Club on pocket squares. Oh my goodness, those poor little callas just oozed all over the place up here. They were not happy. But you could take Super 77 spray glue, right? And something like Dusty Miller, which we all love. Great texture, fabulous, so touchable. Not always going to hold up as well. But I could take the Dusty Miller and the spray glue. I could also do it with Leanne's personal favorite, Gaelic leaves, and spray glue onto the cardboard and then completely cover my form with the leaves. Then if I went back and added a calla into the design, maybe with just a little bit of the ribbon, not a big fluffy bow, I get something different and unique that coordinates with the wrist flowers and looks like it belongs together, but doesn't look matchy-matchy. Matchy-matchy isn't always the coolest anymore. So we'll probably show you a tutorial on this down the road, but I just wanted to kind of spark your interest, things to think about and to play with as we head into homecoming flower season. Excuse me. The other fun thing is working with unexpected materials, right? So I have some fun things here, and I want to put together a little boutonniere with that. And what I have is, anybody know what this is?
Cauliflower.
Kind of looks like little baby cauliflower, doesn't it? Yeah. So if you think you know what this is, go ahead and type it in there. But I have a little bit of that to work with. Set that out of the way. And of course I have a little bit of my preserved moss. I have a fun little air plant, right? Succulents are still on trend, and anything that's unusual or different, go back to my little treasure box back here. Picked up some, these are kind of old school, right? The fabric leaves, sometimes they're velvet or glittery or satin. Excuse me, I have a few of those. And somewhere, oh, I've stepped on him. Oh, how sad. When I was stomping the other corsage, I think I killed my poor little feather. But I also have a fun little feather to work with. So I'm going to work with all of those materials, which is going to give me a lot of texture, a lot of color, and then incorporating some unusual things. That little tiny air plant, which of course afterwards could still live, and then a little bit of this. Anybody identify what this is yet?
There's been a couple of good guesses.
Okay.
One of them I believe is correct. Guesses are yarrow or rice flower.
Okay, yarrow for the win. Yes, so this is bleached, dried, and then preserved yarrow. So it is white. Like there's that feather. That is super white. I was going to see if I had like a sheet of paper. But it is very, very white. And I thought, ooh, how much fun is that? It's got a lot of flexibility to it. And the thing I liked about that is it allows you to, it's not brittle, right? We can work with dried flowers, but something that's not brittle is a bonus for sure. Excuse me. So, oh, no. I got in here without silver wire. That's terrible. Well, there's some black wire back there, and we'll just make that work. This is some of the black flat wire, and I'm going to play with it and give myself a little bit of a form. Ricky, what you got?
Yeah, Andrew has a good question that might be good to just throw out to the Tulip Bunch in general.
Sure.
Which is, what flowers and foliage do you avoid when you're doing handwork?
Excellent question, Andrea. Hers was, what flowers and foliage do you avoid when doing handwork? Now, I know, well, you should never use rose leaves. That's just a given. But I avoid anything that needs a lot of babysitting, i.e. liquid or moisture or anything like that. I want to make sure that whatever I pick is long lasting and doesn't require a lot of babysitting, as I said. Now, some of you may have other things that you work with that you love. I love Oregonia as a foliage. Super, super sturdy. You can get it year round. Ruscus is fabulous. And the little, is it Italian pit? Aussie pit. The little baby pittosporum.
New Zealand.
New Zealand. The little baby pit that's roughly is fantastic. All those little delicate leaves. I tend to really like a variegated foliage. Solal's great, but you guys type in there, share what your favorite foliage is that you like to work with. And I just took, as you just saw, I just took a little bit of that black flat wire and I'm curling up those cut edges so that we don't hurt ourselves. And by we, I mean me. Giving that a little bit of a, kind of looks like a treble clef. Was not my intention, but it kind of looks that way, huh? Yeah. Just random, super random. Probably could never do it the same way again. I'm going to take just a little bit of the ribbon. This is a red with a silver thread through it. And I'm just going to tie it in a little knot down here at the base or the top, depending on how it works out. And this is just to give me a little bit of ribbon. I don't really want a ton, but I want a little bit of that color, want a little bit of that silver sparkle going on. Could even thread it through there if you wanted. No, don't like that. And I'm going to leave it long for the moment because I can trim it when I'm done, but I'll end up with a much shorter piece when I'm finished. And then I'm going to come back with my little bit of that reindeer moss and a little bit of the glue. So another question for you all as we move into school season. Do you have the calendars from the schools in your area? Do you know when homecoming is for everybody? Have you already started to think about it? I know I talked with my friend Kenny down in Texas today, and he did send me some pictures of the traditional Texas homecoming mums, you know, those great big ones. We keep talking about doing it, and it snuck up on me again this year, and I didn't get to it. But I've shown them in a previous Facebook Live where we've talked about homecoming flowers and those, so you can take a look at those. But he said, oh yeah, they're getting ready for it already. But what about you guys? Do you know when your prom is, or excuse me, your homecoming? And do you already have plans for doing a bling bar? All right, so I've got that little coil of wire. I've got this little fun curly, it's a type, I think it's a type of duck, D-U-C-K, duck feather. And it's got a little bit of a curl to him. And so I'm just gluing him in, kind of in where I tied that ribbon off and where I have that little poof of the reindeer moss. He's a little too poofy for me. Dove, you chime in. You're down in Texas. Do you do those great big homecoming mums, the big plates and platters and so forth? So I've got that going. And then I want to use one of these little old school leaves that are so fun. It's digging around in the drawer. We have a fun little bling drawer, treat drawer, whatever you want to call it here at school. Well, we have lots of those, in fact. This one has a wire in it, and I don't really need the wire per se. Ooh. Lots and lots of glue.
YouTube, but on Facebook, it looks like some people are already prepared and others have already gotten some orders, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Orders in already is awesome. And you know, you need to be doing social media posts, especially if you have orders in, letting people know we've already started to receive orders for homecoming. Now's the time to plan ahead. Don't be that person coming in the day before trying to pick something out. So right now, you can kind of see where I am with that little treble clef of wire, and then that feather, a little bit of the reindeer moss, just a tiny bit of ribbon. I haven't trimmed it yet, so don't be losing your minds out there. And then I added in one of those silk leaves as well. Now I want to nestle in this little air plant just for that little something unexpected. I have a little succulent over here too, but I thought the air plant was just kind of fun. It went really well with that reindeer moss for me. All right, so I decided where I want him. Put a little bit of glue on him.
So Dove says in Texas, if it's not big, it's not done right. And he's done several. And he says lots of ribbons and ribbon braids of all kinds.
Oh yeah, that ribbon braid, that's an art form. It's beyond me. I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out, but at least at first glance, it's like, whoa, that looks like a lot. So I've got some glue on the back of this, and I'm just going to touch it into the boutonniere where I want that little air plant to stay. And then I'm going to pull it back out and give it just a second. And while it does that, get this little broken one right there. I'm going to nip that out. And I'm going to give myself a little drink of water because you can hear my voice is scratchy. All right, there we go. And it is just water. Okay, so that glue is setting up nicely. One of the other trends that I saw is a carryover, the handheld bouquets. Those are still trending quite strongly. We've shown them before, but anything from just a small nosegay on up to almost a bridesmaid size is still very popular. I love them. I think they're great and they're showy, but, Teacher Michelle says, but don't let them get out the door with just that. Because once they are finished taking the pictures and they go out to dance, they set that bouquet down and they're never going to pick it up again, more than likely. Right? It's kind of sad. Then they don't have any flowers. So make sure that they've got a ring. What? You say? A ring or a cuff or something to go with that. So there's that little air plant glued in there. Kind of fun. Now I'll come in and trim up these ribbons here. So I don't want a ton of ribbon. I just want a hint of that color. Plus that also gives me a little bit of line. Little extra line, a diagonal line. And then the last little bit is coming in with just a tiny bit, and I mean a tiny bit, I'm not going to use very much, just a little bit of this bleached, dried, preserved yarrow. Maybe not even that much, or maybe I can tuck them in two places. Oh, let's do that. It's not done till it's overdone on a wearable, right guys? So I've just taken a tiny, tiny bit. I'll take just a little bit of glue on the tip of that, and I'm going to work it in underneath that air plant. And then this other little bit, maybe a little bit less. And by the way, we don't throw those little bits out. They go into a little bits bag or a little bits bucket. Oh, you know what? He's going to get clipped short and go on the other side. So I'll trim those short, add just a little bit of glue. And I'm going to nestle those right in at the base. Oh, I like that. I might take this home and make my husband wear it. We're not going anywhere for dinner, but I still might make him wear it. Okay, so there you have it. There's just that sweet little coil of wire, a little bit of the moss, the preserved moss, the air plant, a single feather, one of the single silk leaves, and just a tuck in on that dried and preserved yarrow. Lots of texture, lots of unexpected elements, and the cool thing is this is going to dry really well for starters, and if you wanted to, you could keep the air plant alive just by misting it. Now, how do I put this on? Well, there's the $64,000 question. 2 ways I would do this. One, I would use a U-glue dash on the back down here, then I could affix it to the lapel. And the other option is you can pick up little magnets. There are some that are commercially available for boutonnieres that have like a little green thing on them, but just getting a pair of magnets, you can glue one onto the back with a U-glue dash, or 2 even if you wanted, and then you have the second magnet that would go behind the lapel and it would just clip on. The thing I like about the magnet for something like this, especially with the air plant, is once it's done, clink, you could put it on your locker, you could put it on the fridge at home, and then you have this cool little living air plant that you were wearing, and now it's just part of your keepsakes or your memorabilia or whatever you want to think about there. So that is probably my favorite of the 2. And the funny thing or the fun thing or the sad thing is I probably will never be able to recreate that same little swoop-de-doop with the wire, but that's okay because each one is original at that point, and it doesn't have to be perfectly identical. You'll find that a lot of folks, young kids, prefer to have something that they feel is made just for them. That personalization, we see that a lot with wedding work, but taking it down, taking it back, bringing it back to where they're first buying flowers and letting them know that they can have something that's unique and personal or personalized for them is very important as well. Adding lots of color and texture, and again, a custom piece made with wire, one of a kind. Yes, I can do it again, but it really isn't exactly the same. It's very similar, but it's not identical. Gives your homecoming folks a lot of choices, colors, trends. They really are quite diverse this year across the country, even within the state of Oregon, where I was doing some of my research, from the east side to the west side is quite different. So I guess the big takeaway I would give you as far as homecoming flowers this year is find what speaks to you, make it personal and unique to those customers, and they'll be back for their prom flowers. I guarantee it. So I'm going to clean up the mess I've made, and I want you all to go do something you love, and we'll see you next week. Bye.